Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Um, I am Mei Song. I am part of Team Palisades. So what's Team Palisades? We're all volunteer group organized by neighborhoods, block by block, neighbor by neighbor. And we're dedicated to assist every single resident on this journey that none of us asked for. I'm a neighborhood rep and block captain in the alphabets of Pacific Palisades. I've lived in the Palisades for over 20 years. My kids attended Marquez, Paul Revere, and Pali High. I lost my home on January 7th. I also happen to be an architect. This series of webinar aims to equip all neighbors with the knowledge and resources necessary to navigate the rebuilding process and return home. Tonight's subject matter derived from July 2nd's CD11 LADWP Town Hall with Councilwoman Tracy Park. Tonight's focus is to educate ourselves so that we may better engage intelligently with LADWP when community engagement does occur. It is vital that we engage all parties as a single voice. Tonight, we can get through, together, we could get through this nightmare. Now, increasingly to be able for what? Caption. Oh, yes. So we just enabled the caption for this. Hopefully everyone can see that. So a couple of ground rules. Please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. They will be addressed as quickly as possible following the presentation. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand and limit it to under 1 minute. We will be keeping the webinar to be under an hour so that everyone could get to dinner and also their families. Just FYI, our next in-person gathering will be on August 6th, Together Forward, and it will be at the BSH showroom in Beverly Hills. Now, I would like to introduce my co-host, Kari Weaver, and also Allison Holdorff. Kari, Allison, why don't you start introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Holdorff Paul Hill. I lived at 1046 Iliff for 30 years, raising my three children who went to Pali Elementary, Revere, and Pali High. I, like May, uh, am deeply invested in the rebuilding in this subject matter tonight. Actually, May and I lived 9 houses away from each other and didn't really know each other until after this disaster, joining Team Palisades, becoming block captains, and working together. So, very much interested in the undergrounding, which I think will be absolutely incredible for our neighborhood. And I want to kick it over to Kari Weaver, who's a fellow Alphabets girl.
Yes, thank you, Allison. Kari Weaver, and I live on Embry. I too lost my house and excited to go through the process of rebuilding and recovery and interested in this webinar tonight. Hopefully this is informative for you all, and Alice and I will be helping with questions at the end. Should I kick it back to May?
Mute myself. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. So as we are all on this journey together, all of us have learned a lot of vocabulary. And one of the most important vocabulary tonight is going to be right of way. So the right of way per LA Street Services generally refers to the street, sidewalk, and parkway area that are used by the public as means of travel. And so parkway, by the way, parkway means that the planting area, and of course sidewalk means sidewalk, and then the curb is that strip right along the planting area, and then this is the street, obviously. And underneath our street, we have all these a lot of stuff going on. Of course, you have gas lines, cable, telephone, and then hopefully electric. And then we also have our storm sewer and then also sanitary sewer, and then also perforated pipe for subdrain, and then of course the water main. So now we had that under our belt. I'd like to introduce you to our speaker tonight, Justin Skaggs. Justin's a dry utilities consultant, Santa Monica resident, and he has worked with many local homeowners in the Palisades, and he has consulted on numerous commercial projects such as Amazon and Apple facility. And he's been very actively involved in both Palisades and Altadena recovery process. So take it away, Justin. I'm going to stop sharing so you could start sharing your screen.
All right. Thank you, May. Hi. Thank you for that introduction. So yeah, as May mentioned, I am a Santa Monica resident. I live on 22nd and Wilshire. So, you know, I didn't experience everything that you guys went through. And, you know, I really want to help you guys be able to build back the infrastructure that you guys deserve. So, open up my slides. May, can you let me know if my screen is sharing? Okay, is that good? All right, so Pacific Palisades, what we're going to be talking about is something called underground conversion. This is tailored specifically for the alphabet streets, with you guys, you know, exactly in mind. We're going to go over a few things. One thing that I would like to point out is all the photos or exhibits or images that you're going to see on this presentation are going to be from DWP presentations after the fire for our trade organization, or they're going to be photos from the Pacific Palisades, or they will be from San Diego Gas and Electric or Southern California Edison standards. Okay, so right here, this is an LADWP slide. This is showing what an overhead to underground conversion looks like. You got the before and the after. Okay, this right here is a photo of, I think it's going up Sunset to Marquez. So agenda for today's topic, we're gonna go just through an introduction, who I am, what I do, why my position is, you know, what kind of role we play. We're going to go through the key terms that were talked about in the town hall. We're going to go over the long-term benefits of converting to underground. Overview generally of all the players involved, and then open it up for question and answer. All right. So what is a dry utility? A dry utility is essentially it's power, gas, or telecom. What is a dry utility consultant? The need for a consultant arises from the complexity and bureaucratic nature of coordinating with multiple utility providers and their city governments who oversee the design, permitting, and inspection process. As an owner's representative, we act as a single point of contact for all members involved. There's, like I said, multiple groups. Normally, our clients are members of the architecture, engineering, and construction community. It's very rare that we have, you know, individual homeowners as clients because we're normally working on block-wide projects. So over here to the right, I just wanted to point out, now that we have AECOM signed on with the city, very happy for that. This is a recent project I did with AECOM in Koreatown and Jameson Services. It is these two glass buildings. It's called Opus. It's a 22-story building and I think a 14-story tower as well. So that's an entire city block where we had to remove a lot of lines. The next one down below is an active CD11 project. If you ever, you know, get off on the 10 freeway at the Bundy Expo intersection, there are 3 major or large blocks that are being rebuilt for apartment condos. That was a massive underground conversion project, and it's active right now. Okay, so this is a slide of all the different utility companies, power utility companies in California. One of the main things that I'm focused on here is each utility company has its own set of standards, applications, processes, and timelines. We'll talk about it later on in the presentation. But one of the main things that LADWP is rolling out for your rebuild is something called 12 kV. What's important about this map is the largest providers on this map, PGE, SCE, SDG&E, they all already have 12 kV standards. So I'm using slides from their guidebooks to kind of push help visualize everything. All right, important disclaimers. Goal for this is to educate on underground conversion terms and process. Is for planning purposes only. I'm not an employee of LADWP. Please always consult with LADWP for any design and construction questions specific to your property. And that's really, really important because they'll have the whole story about everything that's going on in your lot. Right up here, I've added some links for if you need to find out who the correct person is at LADWP to contact. You have the Find the Right Person website. For any of your jobs that are active in the system, this is the project status is your tracking site. This will tell you, when you're submitted and, how things are progressing with your inspections. One of the things right here, we have the code book. Again, we are still waiting for the 12 kV standards, so that's not in there yet. And then I wanted to put on here as well the address for the UROC Center. That is where LADWP Incident Command is. It's the former Malibu feed bin. It's open Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 4, and there's the address. All right. So some of you might recognize this slide. This is from the town hall that occurred on 7/2 with CD11. So, looking at it, from an initial look, it's, oh, great, we could see the undergrounding. There's a few terms on here that we're going to need to define and kind of explain what your role is in here. So key locations we're going to be talking about. Distribution Station 29 is the utility substation that feeds all of the alphabets. It's located at the intersection of Via de la Paz and Sunset. It's like the heart of the alphabets. Electrical infrastructure that we're going to be discussing, handholds, pad-mounted transformers, conduits, and your dual meter panel. Distribution primary lines. So pre-fire, you guys were served by 4.8 kV. After the fire, you're going to be served on the 12 kV standard. The higher voltage, the more power capacity. This is a really welcomed event for the Palisades. You guys might have been having problems before with your power service. With all the new electrical requirements, bringing everything up to code, you're going to need a higher voltage, and this is a welcome event. Okay, why is this important to individual homeowners? Well, I know that there's a lot of confusion in all the groups and just in general. We need guidance. So homeowners must understand the participation requirements from the start to avoid project delays and confusion. If we have everyone kind of running around saying different things, it doesn't really help, lead the community forward. So I'm going to give you some of these terms, and again, talk with LADWP if anything doesn't make sense. You can always reach out to me as well, or any of the Team Palisades people here. So you might have been hearing from your architects and your builders, they need clear details and standards to properly design and construct near the temporary poles and construct your new underground conduit. This is a really important point. Your builders can be, going crazy, or your architects trying to, figure out how to actually put that conduit in. And until we get those standards and clear descriptions, processes, this is going to just cause a lot more confusion. So we urge, everyone that's involved on a city level or on the utility level, please expedite these new standards. Another thing right here, materials. Without the standards, we don't really know which materials we're allowed to purchase that are acceptable for the inspector. So this is really important as well. For inspections, the inspections rely on a plan set, and they're going to be looking at that, and they're going to be looking over your conduit, making sure that there's no dirt in it, making sure that it's encased properly, making sure it's the right depth. So these are all really important things. And when you have a bunch of builders already working, it makes it a lot more important that we get these standards sent to us immediately. Over here to the left, these are two pictures of Alphabet's homes on Chautauqua. And one thing I wanted to point out with these is the anchor, that yellow thing that's coming off the pole. These are used to make sure that power lines don't tip over, and they go 8 feet down in the ground. So it's really important for the upper alphabets to actually get the commitment to undergrounding, because these anchors are going right into your building foundation. There's clearance requirements around these pieces of equipment, and there's construction considerations. So again, the upper alphabets, Chautauqua, a few other streets, it's really important for you guys to get some clarity on undergrounding. Okay, next I have what is underground conversion. So what I'm showing you right here is Caruso's Palisades Village, the before and after when they redeveloped that area. See how much cleaner it makes everything look. So undergrounding is the process of replacing overhead electrical power lines with cables buried underground trenches. This improves community aesthetics, safety, and power reliability. So first, going over improved safety and reliability. This is a picture of a pole at the top from the Palisades, and then this is just a news program thing. So improving safety and reliability. You're going to have fewer outages by moving underground. It significantly reduces the frequency of outages caused by severe weather conditions and external interruptions. Increased safety. Undergrounding utilities enhances safety by minimizing the risk associated with overhead lines during storms and high winds. Adverse weather preparedness. Installing underground utilities prepares communities for adverse weather, ensuring continuous service and protection for the residents. A really big one right here is increasing the property value. Normally, underground conversion is very, very difficult. And there is a value to it for your neighborhoods and for your individual properties. You guys have a once in a lifetime shot right here to get your infrastructure rebuilt, to a level that you guys deserve. So one of the things I want to point out on this picture to the right, this is a picture of the Huntingtons. Currently their service is underground. What I have shown in this picture, there is a manhole vault, and then there are 2 vault vents. So we'll get into those a little bit later, but this is where their transformers are. It's underground right there in the street. So value appreciation. Properties with underground utilities typically experience higher market values, attracting more potential buyers. Functional advantages. With underground utilities, neighbors often experience less, fewer outages and maintenance issues, leading to a better living experience. This is a picture right here of the Highlands. This is another example of an underground district. Right here at the bottom of this picture, we have the manhole cover. This is all you really see for a lot of the older underground services.
Justin, you just froze. Hold on. Let me text him. Okay. Oh, let me see. Sorry about this. Technical issues.
We will get him back.
Yes. Okay. So why don't we answer some of the questions that we know then, actually? So, Allison, do you want to read off some of the questions?
Sure, happy to read the first question. Are all alphabet streets power being undergrounded? If so, what do we need to provide? And what does the utility provide in terms of vaults and feeds?
This is why we're having this webinar, so that we could get answers, and also answers from DWP, and also to equip ourselves with knowledge. So when Justin comes back, we could also ask that same questions, and then, and hopefully we're hoping that the entire alphabet streets, all the alphabet streets will be undergrounded. Actually, we're hoping that the entire neighborhood will be, entire of Palisades will be undergrounded.
And Justin just came back. So
Okay, great.
Justin, we took a commercial break and asked the
Yeah.
first question, are all alphabet streets power being undergrounded? If so, what do we need to provide and what does the utility provide in terms of vaults and feeds? But maybe you're getting to that in your slide deck. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we still need information from the utilities to tell us specifically what streets are eligible. There are solutions that can work for every street. We just have to make sure that we're pushing and letting people know that those options are out there. So, there are considerations. Some of the streets are very narrow and very difficult, and they will be a little bit challenging. But there are design solutions that we can work with, and we can plug and play different options from other jurisdictions with 12 kV standards that can work for the alphabets. I might mention in here, or I'll mention later on, there's an active 12 kV underground conversion project in the city of Laguna Beach, where they're undergrounding their residents through alleyways, very tight alleys, and they're able to get it done. So I think there's options that we can make work for each of your streets. All right, let me re-pull up this presentation. Sorry, my computer did a nosedive. All right. There we go, back up and running. I'm gonna scoot to this next view. I think we were right here. All right. So yeah, this is another method of undergrounding. You can see the manhole vault right there, and this little circular thing right here. This is the old way of doing vents. They don't really do that anymore with it flush on the sidewalk because it can get debris stuck in it. So now you're going to see these a little bit larger vault vents. Visual appeal: by reducing visual clutter, underground utilities contribute to a more aesthetically pleasing environment for residents and visitors. So again, this is the Highland or the Highlands. And then environmental benefits and sustainability. By reducing the weather impact, moving underground helps minimize damage caused by severe weather events. It promotes green practices. Underground utilities supports environmental sustainability by facilitating cleaner landscapes and reducing surface clutter. Noise pollution reduction. I know I've heard from a few of the residents on Iliff Street that you guys have a bunch of cell towers with generators. Some of you guys might have heard when you're just walking around, you hear a lot like a buzzing sound. That's the electrical, being pumped through the grid. and it can get very loud in some places. So underground conversion significantly reduces noise pollution from overhead lines. So how does power get to my house? So you've heard about, I'm sure everyone knows about how you get power. You can get it from wind, you can get it from solar, you can get it from gas, coal, nuclear, and hydro. All of those sources are being utilized right now by LADWP. There is a program where they're phasing out coal, gas, and nuclear, and that is a very, very large initiative with LADWP. So what we are going to be focusing on, though, for underground conversion purposes and for your specific blocks, is at the distribution level where it goes DS, that little box, and then it goes to the 4.8, and then it hits that transformer and it goes to the residential property. So that's your house. So the undergrounding that we would be doing is from that distribution station, removing those poles and down to the residents. This is a picture of what typical overhead distribution looks like. This is a slide from Cal Poly Pomona. It was held by Southern California Edison planners. So it shows a primary 12 kV. Your existing service before was at 4.8. Your future service is going to be at 12 kV. What was your power, like I said before, power source distribution station 29 at the intersection of Via de la Paz. And you guys utilized pole mounted transformers right here. So looking at this photo, this is your primary voltage right here. This is going to go underground, the primary 12 kV. Your secondaries, the 12240V, that would go underground as well. That would go from the transformer to your property. And then a really big critical player to always remember in this is your cable TV and your communications lines. In order to completely remove a pole, you have to have them underground as well. Okay. What is a transformer and why are these important? So the old system, higher fire risk, pole-mounted transformers are this gray cylinder cans on the wooden poles. Transformers are used to step down higher voltage electricity to a lower voltage for you to use. You can't just plug in, straight from the grid into your cell phone into that. It would cause a lot of problems. So how fires can start. High winds can cause lines to slap together or be hit by branches, creating sparks that ignite dry vegetation. So, and this answers to your question about are all the streets going to be eligible? This is a design question, and we need to look at all these different options. So where can a transformer be placed? So what I'm showing you right here are some slides from Southern California Edison. You can have your residential transformer on a pad. That's the green thing. You could put it in a vault underground, as we saw on the Huntingtons and the Highlands streets. So this is what's underneath that you actually don't see. These vaults might not be able to be used for the narrow streets up top. And then lastly, we have inside of a building. This is not suitable for residential neighborhoods, but just so you get the full spectrum of where we can put our transformers. The new standard for building, low fire risk, pad-mounted transformers, the green secure metal cabinets on a concrete slab. High voltage lines are buried in protected conduits. Why it's safer, it eliminates the risk of wind-related sparks by shielding power lines from weather and falling branches. This slide was taken from the LADWP Town Hall. And there's a few things that we need to explain on what this is showing. So what this is showing is a concrete transformer pad that is 5 foot by 7 feet. That sticks up about 3-4 inches off the ground. And then you have an easement shown on here. That's the 11 feet by 15 feet. It looks like from the slide that could be showing something on private property. What we're going to do is we're going to show a few examples from other jurisdictions. You don't have to have this on private property. It can be in the public right of way, in your parkway, or it can be underground. So the little green box, that's something we haven't mentioned as well. That's typically going to be about 2 to 4 feet high. So it's not going to be very large or intrusive. But this is important, the 11 by 15 foot space. You can't build in that area. So we want to look at other options, you know, that's more advantageous to your neighborhoods. Right down here at the bottom too, this is the 5 by 7 precast pad with a handhole for the pad mounted transformer. That's the standard that's currently in their guidebook. Again, we need confirmation if these types of materials are the same ones that we can use. And then that's really important. So when you look at that pad that's 5 foot by 7 feet, and then you see that larger 11 by 15 foot space, like, why do you need all that clearance space? Well, the large working space in front of a transformer reduces the risk of accidents or collisions, creating a safety or safer environment for everyone. As you can see, Southern California Edison has a whole guidebook on how you could do your landscaping and screening to protect it. So there are options for us to, you know, make that not look so ugly, I guess. And the next one, this is from Sacramento Municipal Utility. If a pad is used, can we paint it to blend in? And yes, many jurisdictions encourage this or require this. So you can drive around any Southern California Edison jurisdiction and you will see or transformers that are painted. You might not even see the transformers because it blends into the color of the wall behind it. These ones are artistic. I know May and Kari and Allison had some good ideas. Maybe if Allison wants to hop in here.
Sure.
Oh, hadn't you mentioned that one artist?
Oh, yes, Massey, who did the beautiful lifeguard towers, taxi cabs. We haven't talked to him.
Oh,
We could do
okay.
something like that. That would be amazing for our community. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at Playa Vista, so I was talking to another gentleman who helped build that from Brookfield Residential. And he had mentioned when, you know, they were planning out where to put their transformers, they were screening their transformers, they were painting them and they were wrapping them. It's a really good idea. I encourage that gentleman, he's come to Team Palisades a few times, to, you know, talk Team Palisades through what steps you have to take to actually get that painting and screening done. Okay, this is a rendering by Mei Sung. It is a street of Iliff. Okay, this is a really important point of conversation. So from that LADWP Town Hall presentation, it looked like it was on private property. Does a pad have to go on private property? Simple answer, no. There's active underground conversion projects in Santa Monica, Laguna Beach, Pasadena from April and May, and they are putting their transformers in vaults. But another place that you could put them is in the parkway. So as May has shown right here to the left-hand side of Iliff, you have that 5 foot by 7 foot pad in the parkway. That's really doable. And another one over here to the right, she has the working space clear going into the sidewalk. One of the main considerations is you have to have 4 feet for ADA compliance. So if the parkway is large enough to fit that pad and still give you that 4 feet of ADA compliance, then the one on the right-hand side would work, but it looks like the side on the left is going to be more likely for a pad in the public right-of-way. Flexible case-by-case evaluation. So each underground conversion project is assessed individually, allowing for flexible solutions tailored to urban needs and aesthetics. I'm looking at every single one of your blocks in the alphabet streets. I don't know how many you guys have, 50 or something. You know, every block is that's a project. And your pad mounted transformers should be carefully considered to consider everyone. You don't want to be, you know, hurting 1 out of every 8 people. Okay, this is another picture of just that example from SCE guidelines. Most active projects utilize transformer vaults for underground conversions. A lot of them, though, if the streets are very cluttered or if they're very narrow, they will go with the pad mounts. So this just shows what it looks like when a pad mounted structure at the bottom here is on private property, and another scenario at the top where the pad mount is in the public right of way. And then the other option is, and this is for 12 kV design standards, which we encourage our local representatives to really study and look into this, transformers and vaults, and utilizing buried underground switches. This is kind of the model of what's really great for underground conversion, and it's being actively employed in Laguna Beach, which has similar hillside streets. It's a ocean community. It has very small, narrow alleys, and they are able to do that here. Let's explore if we can get that done in the Palisades. So again, on this picture, this is a picture of the Huntingtons. What you'll see at the top is you just see that that vault hatch, and you'll see these artistic or architectural standpipe vents. These can also be shielded really well. It was really difficult. I was driving through the Huntingtons yesterday trying to find a bunch of their transformers, and they're very hard to find. The Highlands is the same thing. Yeah, you basically don't even notice the power. So what a vault is a heavy duty concrete enclosure housing transformers and equipment. You've been seeing these being installed on Sunset. This serves the same function as a pad mount, but for a larger number of homes or in specific situations. Okay, and then this is where the conduit comes in, these little holes right here. There's ventilation for that transformer because it needs to be vented. This was another item that was discussed during the call. They were talking about a handhold and conduit. So what I have shown right here is there's pretty much only 2 handhold providers that are eligible to sell to LADWP. So we really want to be procuring these items if they are going to be needed. It's very important that the whole industry that produces these handholds and these vaults knows what system we're actually going to be constructing. And just being told for us to be able to just buy a handhold, as you can see, they all have model numbers and they all have specific sizes. It's very important that we get the exact spec of the handhold that's required. And I really encourage, if your builders are going to go out there and purchase a handhold, we really need to get confirmation on the size before you do that. Another thing right here too, so what I'm showing over here on the bottom is residential single phase transformer. And then from that, the secondary conduit goes to the handhold. And then from the handhold, it goes onto your property and up to your meter, your terminating enclosure. These 2 items were kind of explained and shown on the town hall. But basically, your secondary goes to your handhold goes to your property. Electrical conduit. The purpose of electrical conduit provides protective tubings for wires, preventing physical damage. It goes at a certain depth. It gets a certain mixture of concrete, and it goes on a certain bedding. Also, another thing to consider, you need to get the conduit for Frontier and Spectrum. It's going to be great if we can get those all in the same trench. If it's a joint trench, if it's a parallel trench, either way, apples, who cares? Whatever you want to call it, it can go in the same trench, be installed at the same time. And then your LADWP electric service representative will be inspecting this at multiple occasions to ensure compliance with the standards. So when your builder says that, oh, we can't get the inspector out here to do anything, that's looking at a staffing level issue. And hopefully with ACOM right here, that's something that we can help fix. But your ESR is going to be inspecting it. There is an ESR assigned for the Palisades. Your builders will know who that is. This is a very important person that's going to dictate, how your project is built. Okay. Next is, what kind of meter should we buy? What you need to buy is a dual meter panel that can connect to the overhead and the underground. Make sure your builder and your electrician contractor are purchasing a panel that can connect to both. Okay, that's critical, because you don't want to install something that can't actually be converted to underground, where you're going to be having to dig up your hardscape and redo everything and then get your property rewired. It's really important that they understand you want an overhead service line connection and you want an underground service line connection. Specifically of where that underground conduit's going to go, we need DWP to design that. There are other options we can get into maybe in the question and answer. Okay, and each of those panels, it has to be material spec that works for DWP. I'm going to go through these a little bit or faster now because I'm losing time right here. But basically, this is a San Diego Gas and Electric standard right here. It clearly defines what roles and responsibilities your contractor has and what the utility have. Okay, and this is a San Diego Gas and Electric standard. As you can see, the transformer pad right here is in the street or the parkway, not on the private property. Oh, another thing right here too. Actually, it's not on this one. Never mind. Key players. Don't forget the telecom providers. To complete undergrounding and removing a utility pole, it requires all occupants to relocate their cables and conduit underground for full removal. Telecommunications on your poles, Frontier and Spectrum, Charter, their emails still say Charter, but Spectrum and Charter are the same thing. This is their franchise area. Key players, the city council and the mayor's office. So a player that we haven't talked about here is the CPUC. The CPUC does not oversee LADWP design standards the same way that it oversees San Diego Gas and Electric, PG&E, and Southern California Edison. LADWP is a municipality, and those other groups are investor-owned utilities. So one thing that and the CPUC is the California Public Utility Commission. One thing that we're encouraging your elected officials is talk to the CPUC. They provide you a guidebook on how to manage these underground conversion projects for policymakers. I know it's very confusing. I've worked with some of the largest developers and companies in the world, and they all need a little bit of help. It's new to everyone. It's a very complex, intricate system, making an underground conversion project work. We can do it, and really encourage your elected officials to adopt this guidebook. So basically, it shows to ensure the city or council is aware of all options that can improve project efficiency. City or county can establish a conversion planning committee. The conversion planning committee is comprised of representatives from the city, county. This is an SDG&E one. So LADWP, and involved telecom providers. The primary function of the conversion planning committee is to identify and prioritize projects. And this next part, it says, this guidebook explains how Rule 20 underground projects are funded pursuant to each of the Rule 20 programs. It identifies and illustrates models for planning a conversion program and suggests how utilities, local governments, developers, residents, businesses can work together to implement undergrounding projects. And lastly, this is a big topic. How are underground conversion projects funded? Well, LADWP has 3 different scenarios for how we can actually fund these. They all involve city council involvement. One thing that we would encourage DWP and the city to implement is another program called Rule 20D for wildfire mitigation. This was after one of their very large wildfires, and because they have military bases, it is written into their codes. If it's a fire safety hazard area, they're going to underground those lines. And they put a lot of funding towards that. So that's a Rule 20D program. Next, preventing the next disaster. Why is underground conversion important? This is the valley on January 7th. It was a near miss. These wires, they snapped. And as you can see over here, there's trees right here. The valley could have gone up too. So it's really important to harp on the safety issue of undergrounding. If you have this opportunity, take advantage of it. Now, this is your other neighbors, Brentwood and Mandeville Canyon. What you guys achieve here is something that Brentwood, Mandeville Canyon, all of your other neighbors have been fighting for and trying to get done as well. This picture right here to the right, this is 3 utility poles wrapped around someone's house, and it's really loud and it's concerning. This is the other view, the top one of that person's home. And then this is Mandeville Canyon on January 15th, or something after the fire in January. But you can still see all the pink fire retardants still on those, covering those wires and those trees. So next steps and question and answers. I hope I didn't lose anyone.
No,
Yeah.
thank you, Justin. So we have received a number of questions, and we're just going to go ahead and go down the list. For those questions that we don't have the answers to, we will be getting the answers and sending them out in an FAQ. But the first question we have is for standing alphabet homes. Will we suddenly have new easements that cut into gardens that survived?
You have to make that yourself really clear on that you're not gonna stand for new easements put on your property, especially if your home survived. The standing homes, though, in order for your block to be able to remove all the poles, we have to find a way, and in that guidebook, there's kind of methods, and Southern California Edison has also explained this. You can get philanthropic funds to cover the underground trenching for those standing homes to make sure that everyone, is able to participate. And the standing homes, you're going to need to get a new meter panel and wiring. And again, these are funding or questions that need to be discussed with your elected officials and with DWP. There are solutions out there to pay for those things.
That is great. And thank you. We really appreciate your expertise. Great presentation. We had a question, I think it's already been answered through your presentation, but will the new electrical feeds come from the street or from the rear of the yard? And you seem to indicate that more likely than not, they're going to come from the street.
Yeah, and the reason why they would come from the street is because people have retaining walls back there. They have pools in that area. They have trees and everything. DWP and the comms providers and anyone working in maintenance, they need to be able to access it from the street, and then you got to get the crane to install it. So yeah, that easement in the back would not be used for undergrounding, unless you all want to get rid of your walls.
Okay, I think Kari's going to read the next one.
So will the new electrical feeds come from the street or from rear yard easements as they are now?
Okay, so yeah, that's the same type of question. Like I said, it's going to have to come from the street if it's going to be undergrounding.
Oh, I'm sorry. My
Now-
apologies. I think I asked the same question.
Oh, well, another thing to point out there too is DWP, they've mentioned and alluded to this. If you're going to want to get undergrounding before they actually come and put it in the street, putting conduit up to the pole behind, so you can have undergrounding that comes from the pole and then to your panel, and then you're also going to have conduit from the street into your panel. This ensures that you're going to be getting underground if you don't want that temporary overhead service in the meantime.
Okay, great. Sorry. So the question that I meant to ask was, any word on when standards will be released, and do we need to hold off on permitting until that point?
You do not need to hold off on permitting. We need people to be submitting to LADWP and to the city in order to urge and push people to actually release those standards. One of the reasons I focused on San Diego and Southern California Edison so heavily in this, and the CPUC, is they all have clearly defined 12 kV standards. The city council can just be handed a packet. Here's 12 kV standards, adopt this. They're very extensive and they're very good. And there's a lot of pages dedicated specifically to underground conversion.
And
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to ask the next question. Is that okay?
Oh, go for it.
All right, we have from the previous DWP, it was recommended that a house panel that is a combo be connected to the traditional power poles. This question from one of our neighbors is whether or not once it's on the power pole, when they convert it underground, can it be connected to something? And is that still advisable?
Yeah, and that's something you're going to want to talk with your electrical contractor and your builder about. How do you make sure that your property is best set to be underground ready? It's really important for a lot of people. So make the decision that, gives you the most options. What I would say, until we get a definitive answer and a set timeline, I mean, we really want a set timeline, but you can always put conduit from the pole to your panel, and then also conduit from the street to the panel. And then that way, when you have it up to the street, it's ready. You don't have to tear up any hardscape. You don't have to rewire anything. The conduit's there. We just point to where it is, and that's where they design to.
Great, great. Okay, the next question, how will undergrounding affect access and restoration during future emergencies such as earthquakes or mudslides?
That's a very good question. Along that same line, if you have poles, those poles are going to be falling over in earthquakes and mudslides too. Infrastructure will need to be maintained and cleaned. And because wildfires are the most pressing kind of issue for this area, in addition to earthquakes, every solution is going to come with risks. The safest option is undergrounding.
Thank you. And on that note, the next question in the line, which I think is so interesting, having just walked with a girlfriend from the Alphabets into the depths of the Huntingtons, is there a known correlation between the areas that burned in the Palisades and above ground power lines? So areas that burned in the Palisades and areas that did not burn.
That's a very difficult question to answer. And there's a lot of theories on why things burnt and other things didn't burn. The Huntingtons might have not burned because the houses were spread apart further, or because they were already underground and they didn't have lines snapping and causing fires. There's a number of things that could have gone into it. I would say that's something to look into and study and think about. But at the end of the day, I mean, if it's really windy and you see those lines shaking, what feels safer to you? I mean, this was a traumatic experience you all went through. Do you guys want to go through that again? I don't think anyone wants to go through that again. None of us want to see you guys go through it again. So let's rebuild your infrastructure up to the latest, standards and how the best practices are. But yeah, I mean, that could be something. I'm not exactly sure to answer your question.
Okay. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if you know the answer to this question, but maybe you could take a stab at it, and not we'll try to find someone who could answer it for us. If not, how much will undergrounding cost? Is it possible that the city will pick up the tab? Is it also possible the city will bill Alphabet Street residents and that the bill will reflect the cost efficiency or inefficiency of the city? Reflect the cost efficiency.
So this is one of the main points that, as a utility consultant, I'm in a very niche kind of thing where, I understand all these different utility companies, standards and processes and how they bill. Without standards and processes and guidelines that I could read, and not giving you guys those answers, it's really difficult for me to be able to answer that question. I was really hoping that we would get some information on the town hall. We haven't gotten that yet, but there are many different mechanisms for how you could fund this, and that's the Rule 20A, B, C, and Rule 20D. And then there's philanthropical solutions as well. this is a really big, environmental concern too. So, helping the people that their homes maybe survived and they can't afford someone to trench and redo their wiring. That's something to ask for. There's, we could say that it's going to be funded a certain way, but until you actually get clear information from the city and from the utility, that's up in the air. But we are pushing. I know a lot of people here are pushing to have it not be a burden on the customer. And yeah, I also want to make sure that no one's charging you to remove that pole that they just put up.
Yep. And on that note, now we're getting some technical questions, but we've got the right person for this. Does 12V only apply to underground or above ground as well?
12 kV can be served overhead and it can be served underground.
And then, sorry, Kari, it's your turn, but just a quick question about cost, which I believe you've covered. And we may just send this right to DWP. Are they going to increase power charges in order to recoup these expenses? And that seems like a question we should just pass along to DWP.
Did we lose Justin?
Maybe.
I think we might have lost Justin. While Justin's trying to get on, actually, maybe I'll try to answer some of the questions. So what's next on our queue? I'm trying to answer them. There's a lot of questions. I'm trying to type them out, but
is it important that the work takes place prior? Justin said no. You can get your permits. You can start building now.
Right.
The next question, for the houses, when the transformers for the neighborhood would be placed, are there any risk for the EMF?
That's a Justin question.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on that. So we'll need to wait for
and
Justin.
then Kari, do you want to ask Reza's question? And that's, I think, has been answered, but about being able to put those things on the parkway.
So Justin's back, so maybe let's pick up where we left off.
Okay.
12 kV can be underground or overhead. That was my.
Okay. So I think we're gonna go, because I think Tamara's question was answered already. For the houses where the transformers for the neighborhood would be placed, are there any risks of higher rate of EMFs?
That's a good question for LADWP. One thing too is if you get it in a vault or if you get it on the parkway, it's not going to be put on your property.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of studies and there's more appropriate people that understand the science behind it. But that's a good question.
All right. So we're at 5:58. Yuri has had his hand raised for a long time. All the questions that are in the chat, we will try to consolidate them, and then hopefully we'll ask we'll forward these to DWP and get answers from them. And these are all great questions, and we definitely need an answer. So why don't we have Yuri ask his question? Yuri, are you still there? Okay, I don't think Yuri might have left already. So anyway, let's go on to, let's answer like maybe couple more questions, and then we should probably let everybody get to dinner.
So there was another question about where these are going to be placed, and does DWP decide where the transformers will go?
That's a really good question. In LADWP jurisdiction, they're the only ones that can design the underground service. So in other jurisdictions, there's something called applicant design or contract design, where a third party can go ahead and design the conduit for your block and for your property. So that's a policy change that we would need to occur to actually be able to really control exactly where that new equipment is placed.
Got it. And there seem to be a lot of questions about, can people build now? If they start building, will this project, once it is underway, interfere with?
Yeah, people can build now. And again, I encourage everyone to start building now. You can build off the existing standards for 4.8 kV. They're not going to hold you back, and they're not going to make you change once the new standards come out. Really encourage you though is when your builder is actually building, they already know that they have to call the inspector, and they have to send your application into a designer. You want to make sure that they're purchasing the dual panel, okay? And then you're telling the service planning engineer who's designing the project that you want to prepare to make your house underground ready. From my understanding, I mean, I've asked this a bunch of times to LADWP and to multiple groups in DWP, like who should we submit to for these kind of things, and just follow the business as usual process right now. And if your builder doesn't know that, or your electrician doesn't know that, this is what our core business is too. And we could definitely, you know, take on that scope for you, and really just kind of, you know, hold your hand and walk you through it. We got to pay for these types of things, and we're doing the same kind of things for Altadena and Malibu. They have their own issues.
And does the neighborhood need to get together? This seems to be a lot of the questions. Like, should the neighbors get together and decide and let DWP know, yes, this is what we want, and this is where we want these devices, for example, or this is how we want you to pursue this type of funding, and we want so-and-so to lead it?
Yeah, I would say this is like guerrilla trench warfare. Like, you know, you guys can go up as a block, and you can really make your voice heard that you want a seat at the table in the design process. These are your property values, and I would be looking at your individual street as this is my project. I want to know every pole that's on this street. I want to know every piece of material. I want to know the widths of every sidewalk, where every utility line is. There should be a dedicated project manager, a concierge helping you through this system. Each of your blocks are really important. Get your neighbors together. I was doing a project on Marinette up on the upper alphabets, and we just had to move a pole a few feet and then add an anchor. And we had to have 3 meetings out there with every homeowner. So you're going to have to talk with your neighbors, and that's going to give you the optimal solution. And I think this is really important. You have to, for this one thing, really like work with your neighbors.
Thank you, Justin. So we're at 6:03, and I'm going to answer one last question from the chat. Team Palisades question, would love to hear what plans is for how we Alphabet neighbors will come together to interface with DWP. This is why we're having these webinars. It's not just for Alphabets, even though this one is focused on the Alphabets, but the thing is for every single neighborhood in the Palisades. I highly recommend you find out who your block captain is, and then get together as a neighbor, as a block, as a neighborhood, and then we could engage DWP in these discussions. With that said, there's going to be a survey at the end of this webinar, so don't exit too quickly, because we want to get your opinion on what you think of the webinar and what your suggestions are for future webinars. There are a lot of topics we need to cover, and that there's a lot of information we need to learn as homeowners to move forward together as a neighborhood. Thank you so much for joining. I know we didn't get to all the questions, but the things that we're going to consolidate them, and then and hopefully we'll either issue it as a newsletter or and try to get answers before we we issue the newsletters. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Stay
you.
on
Bye-bye.
stay on for the survey.
Yes,
Can I-
absolutely. Thank you.
Here.